Good morning. It is now 8:20 and we now have Tropical Storm Irma instead of Hurricane Irma. Now the big reason that's the case is because in the last update it shows the winds dropped about 5 miles per hour from the middle portion of the storm. So when it gets below 74 miles per hour, that's the difference between a hurricane and a tropical storm. Either on the lower side, tropical storm, upper side, hurricane. But the wind gusts are still going to be pretty dangerous out there, looking at about 90 miles per hour as it continues to track through the northern portions of Florida. So at the moment, looks to make its way between about Lake City and Tallahassee before reaching, say, Albany, Georgia right there. So as it continues to move up that way, it is going to continue to lose strength. But I do want to emphasize that this is still going to be a dangerous storm as it makes its way past our area. And now I think overall our rain totals are going to range in between about 2 and maybe 4 inches, with some isolated spots getting in between about 6 and 8 across the area. And the spots I could see the most rain is going to be down towards the south of Warner Robins, and you're going to see other spots towards the north, which might see a little bit more, but that's going to be from later in the week when it eventually stalls closer towards Tennessee. Now, tropical storm force winds is going to be another thing to look out for, mainly for the southern counties, and the further north you get, the less likely they are. But for today, I would go ahead and expect some very strong wind gusts for the rest of the day today. Now, another thing that people might be worried about in a situation like this is tornadoes. They are very common in both hurricanes and tropical storms, but it looks like the main threat for those is going to be along the coast as opposed towards middle Georgia. Now, we can't rule them out in our area, but it looks like they're going to be a little bit more isolated for our area compared to Savannah's over there. Okay, now the wind gusts is another thing to watch for, obviously, and as we continue to move on throughout the morning, could be as high as 70 miles per hour as the eye begins to cross into Georgia. And you're going to see that white area right there where the strongest are going to be possible continuously move on up throughout this afternoon. And I think the worst time for Macon is going to be in the mid-afternoon. That's where the wind gusts could be in between about 70 and 80 miles per hour before they begin to calm down this evening. Now here's going to be a last look at your
eyes. You know, tropical storms, you think, oh, a little rain, but you want to stress also, this is not the time to go back home. I have evacuees at home in my place from Jacksonville. This is not the time to get back on the road or do anything, really.
Yeah, for those of you maybe waiting to go back to Florida, I would probably wait just a couple more days because we're still looking at this thing to move fast, yes, but it looks like it might stall out in Tennessee, might give us still some rain for tomorrow. And you're also going to be looking at roads still being blocked in Florida. So how are you going to get home if the roads still are going to be clogged up down there?
Yeah.
So, of course, the main message to everyone watching right now is keep watching from the safety of your home.
Yes.
Hunker down. And, Daniel, you have the specifics of what we're expecting and seeing right now.
Yeah, one big thing I want to show you first is the storm chasers. Now, we're looking at two, one of which is actually been kind of hard to keep up with because he's been in Georgia, and this one is going to actually be in the middle. And this is going to be with, oh, that one looks like it dropped. So let me try refreshing the page and see if it's back up. No, it doesn't look like that one's up. So like I mentioned, that one was falling off. They were in Georgia. We were going to have some video of them. But let's go back over to Charles Peak's team. They are in Naples. This is going to be a look at a neighborhood there where a tree looks like it fell down into their yard, or at least in someone's yard. It doesn't look like their house was damaged, at least from this shot right here. But overall, you are going to be seeing a little bit less damage than what they had down there. They hit them as a Cat 4 and a Cat 3. We can still see trees falling down in our area as the storm continues to move just a tad bit closer towards our region. Now here's going to be a live look at downtown Macon, and this is going to be through the Wilson Bryant Heating and Air Skycast network. Still looking at heavy rain. You can see the wind impacting the trees right there. It's really beginning to pick on up, and the rain almost looks like it's coming sideways at some times through this camera. Now another look at Warner Robins. You're going to see trees moving there as well. In fact, leaves are falling off it like crazy. If you look at the parking lot, rain still moving very, very quickly through that region. And Dublin is not underwater, as this may show you. They just have a lot of rain moving in at the moment. And for the Atlanta airport, a lot of delays right now as some very heavy wind is beginning to move through their region. Now a lot of that heavier rain has still stuck down towards the south, but we're already beginning to see values close to maybe an inch and a half here in middle Georgia, and mostly for our southern counties. Spots like Macon have seen quite a bit of rain, but not exactly totals like they've seen in areas like Cripps County, Wilcox, Pulaski. All those areas have seen quite a bit more. Now, plenty of other spots have seen more rain. along the border of Georgia and Florida, and that is where a lot of rain is continuing to move through the area. Now, you are looking at this spot right here, which looks like it could move into Macon. That's where the really, really heavy rain is, and the reason it looks like we're going to get the heaviest rain moving through later on this afternoon is because we're going to be just off towards the north and towards the east of where the eye actually is. So if you watch this come on up, the eye is currently in between Lake City and Tallahassee, maybe a little bit closer towards Lake City at the moment, and we're still looking at tropical storm conditions with winds consistently at 70 miles per hour. Now, once it reaches us here in middle Georgia, that is going to die down just a little bit. We're still looking at strong wind speeds, as I'll show you in a second, but at the moment, it is continuously going to die because the eye is going to move over land from this point forward. Really no chance of it strengthening at all as it continues to move up through that area. So, it's still expected to be a tropical storm early tomorrow morning when it crosses over into Alabama, but you're going to notice it may be moving through Albany, and then that's going to put us in the northeastern portion of the storm after it moves past Albany. And what that means is that we can see the heaviest conditions as far as rainfall totals and also maybe some high wind gusts in the 70s, as I'll show you in just a second. But the weaker part of the storm is always going to be further over towards the west. So spots like over near Panama City and Dothan and even into parts of Montgomery are going to see some heavy rain for those of you with relatives over there. But as far as those high wind speeds, those are mainly going to be concentrated in our area. Now, I kind of want to break down for you what exactly the timing is for the heaviest rain and also when you could eventually see it backing off just a little bit. So what we're seeing right now is a lot of heavy rain continuously moving up from the south, and you're going to see it begin to clear, I think, in the early evening hours for spots like Telfair County, areas like Dublin, if you live in Eastman, Toombs, Montgomery County, anywhere down there, looks like it can clear up a little bit earlier. And then for spots like Warner Robins, Dooley County, over into Twiggs, maybe closer to 8 or 9 is when you can start to see that heavy rain really backing off. And for just about everyone overnight tonight, just looking at isolated and maybe scattered chances of rain for the day ahead. Okay, now this graphic right here, the forecasted rain totals, I think is underselling our totals just a little bit. You're going to see values on this map maybe in between 2 and 3 inches. Now, I do think that's going to be possible in some areas, but I think a majority of people in middle Georgia are going to have in between 4 and maybe 6 inches of rain between today and early tomorrow. And one other thing I do want to touch on is the tornado threat. It can't be completely ruled on out here for middle Georgia, but it's not going to be as high as what we are anticipating over the weekend. A lot of those are going to be sticking closer towards Savannah and down into Brunswick and Jacksonville, all the way up through Charleston and potentially even Myrtle Beach. Now for us here, like I mentioned, still can't rule it out. Our main threats, though, is going to be those tropical storm force winds that could move into our region, which are very, very likely, according to this map. Looks like we have a 100% chance of those moving in. And you're definitely going to see that when we walk you through what to expect with the wind gusts for the day ahead. So about the middle of the afternoon, looks like it has updated just a little bit here. The heavier stuff could be up towards our northeast. Wind gusts, though, still in between about 50 and 70 miles per hour across the majority of middle Georgia. So still very, very high. Might back off a tad bit in the evening, particularly in our far southern counties over here, but still in areas like Monroe County, up in Jasper and Putnam counties, still in the 50s even during the evening hours. Okay, so as we make our way into the overnight hours, those winds will die down just a little bit, but if you wake up and go to work, you're still going to be looking at some strong winds and some isolated rain as the eye of the storm continues to move further up towards the north. Now, the chances of power outages have decreased since early this morning. It looks like we can still see some scattered places without power, and that is going to continue to be the case throughout the rest of the day today. But looks like we've already had some spots, mainly in Monroe County, some spots around Macon, have already begun to lose power. And I think our best chance, if we do lose power, is going to be during the afternoon hours, as opposed to this morning.
All right, thank you, Daniel.
Well, as you guys know, power outage is obviously going to be a big concern for the day ahead. And it's not going to be caused by lightning so much. It's really those wind speeds knocking trees over, hitting power lines, also just wind knocking over power lines on their own. We also heard about a couple transformers that caught on fire in Monroe County. Those are going to be the big things to look at whenever it comes to those power outages across the area. Now, that was a look at the Atlanta airport, and right now we're trying to get our computer reset so we can show you those live looks from Macon. Right now at the airport, though, they are seeing some heavy rain, and in fact, they're having totals up there in between about 5 and about an inch of rain so far. Now, once we continue to move on throughout the day, you're going to see just an absolute ton of rain move into the region, and that is really going to be coming up obviously from the tropical storm. And at the moment, winds down to about 65 miles per hour, so it is beginning to die down a little bit at a time. And the reason that it is because it is not over the ocean anymore, and whenever you see it either over the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf, that's when you see these things strengthening. So now that the eye is on land and is going to stay on land, it's going to continue to weaken from this point forward. Now, it's still going to be very strong when it moves through our area, and we're actually going to be moving through the strongest part of it. The eye currently is just along the border of Florida and Georgia, or at least getting closer to that area just north of Lake City over there, and we're going to be on the northeast side of the storm, which is where all the heavy rain and the heavy wind is going to be for the day ahead. In fact, let's go ahead and check out the wind field. You are going to be seeing this moving into the area. At the moment, looks like the eye is actually just off like Lake City, like I was mentioning before. The strong winds, though, are starting to move into middle Georgia. We're of about 58 miles per hour. Looks like they're starting to make its way just north of Perry. So that's where those much stronger winds are going to be possible. But still, if you're in an area like Macon, if you're in Forsyth, if you're anywhere in the yellow, it's still a possibility that you have some stronger wind gusts that could be as high as, say, 58. Now, if you're in the area that's orange, those wind gusts could now potentially hit 70 miles per hour, potentially even 80 at absolute highest across the area. And you can see the strongest wind speeds moving just south of Telfair, Toombs, and Montgomery counties. So if you're in that area, and even up in Eastman and Lawrence County, the stronger wind is going to be headed your way rather shortly. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Now, current wind speeds across the area are still in the 20s for a lot of spots, even 30 for Dublin, looking at 31 for consistent winds. We're looking at 29 for consistent wind speed in Macon. Warner Robins about 24. And you see this area in orange here in the middle, actually stronger winds there at the moment. Probably close to, say, 30 to 35 miles per hour from Cordele all the way up to the Dublin area, like I was mentioning before. Now, the wind gust is an entirely different story right now. We're looking at about 44 miles per hour here in Macon. That was just recently measured. Down in McRae, though, 49. So you're really going to begin to see the stronger winds moving in over the next little bit. Montezuma, Americus, in the lower 40s as well. Forsyth, Monticello, even Thomaston, haven't seen the worst of it just yet, but it will continue to move in to the area as we work our way through the day ahead. Now, let's go ahead and check out the radar. This looks like an absolute mess, and obviously it is right now, but the heavier rain is getting a little bit closer to us, and it's going to continue to move up from the southeast into our area. And this big massive yellow is where the heaviest rain is going to be for the day ahead. That is already over spots like Eastman, Cochran, and starting to make its way into Warner Robins. Should be in Macon rather shortly as well. And you're going to see this in motion, a lot more heavy rain.